Sheikh Hamdan said goodbye, and nobody understood what he meant. He said it right there, in public, in front of millions of people who read his words and felt something and moved on without understanding that what they had just read was not a poem about the abstract experience of loss, but a specific, real personal goodbye to a specific, real personal chapter of his life that was ending. He said goodbye, and the world read it as poetry, and it was poetry. But it was also the truest thing he had said out loud in months, maybe in years, and it passed through millions of hands without a single official acknowledgement that it was anything more than another beautiful post from the Crown Prince of Dubai. That is the specific loneliness of being Sheikh Hamdan. The most honest moments of his life are the ones that the world consumes as entertainment, without ever recognizing them as confession. To understand what the goodbye meant, you have to understand how Hamdan communicates. He does not make personal announcements. He does not sit down with journalists and explain the state of his inner life. He does not use the official channels that royal families use for important communications to say the things that actually matter to him personally. He uses poetry, always poetry. It is the one space in his public life where the management loosens enough to let something real through. And he knows this, he has always known this. The poetry is the place where he is allowed, by himself, if not always by the world around him, to tell the truth. And so, when something important happens in his private life, when something ends or begins or breaks or shifts in a way that is too significant to be carried entirely in silence, it eventually appears in a poem. Layered, beautiful, deniable as anything specific, if anyone official ever decided to ask, but there for the people paying close enough attention to find. The poem that contained the goodbye was posted at a moment that, in retrospect, marked the exact edge of a chapter, the private life he had been building, the woman he had chosen, the children they shared, the promise he had made that this time things were going to be different was in its final days. Not that he would have been able to say that with certainty in the moment. These things are rarely fully legible from the inside at the time they are happening. But something in him knew. The way certain parts of a person always know before the conscious mind is ready to accept the knowing. And that knowledge went into the poem the way all his deepest knowledge goes. Not announced, not explained, but present in the quality of the feeling that the words carry. The poem spoke out Baparture in the way that his best work always addresses difficult things through image and metaphor and the kind of indirection that allows real feeling to be expressed without requiring the writer to be specific about the life that produced it. It spoke about a door, about standing at the edge of something and understanding that the crossing of the threshold is not going to be a choice so much as an inevitability, about loving a place or a person or a chapter of a life, enough to want to stay but understanding with a clarity that has nothing gentle in it, that staying is not available, that whatever is on the other side of the door is where you are going, regardless of whether you are ready for it, regardless of what you are leaving behind. The followers who read it felt moved in the way his followers always feel moved. The comments filled with the kinds of responses his poetry reliably generates: appreciation for the beauty of the language, recognition of the feeling, being described in the abstract, the specific comfort that people take from discovering that someone else has found words for something they have felt themselves. They connected with the poem as an expression of universal human experience because it was that. Everything Hamdan writes is that, on one level. But this particular poem was also something more specific, a goodbye that had a name and a face and a history that none of the people reading it in the comment section were in a position to know. The woman he was saying goodbye to may have read it, probably read it. The people close to the situation have said enough. In the careful, indirect way that people close to royal families speak about things they are not officially permitted to discuss, to suggest that she followed his public work, the way people follow the public output of someone they know in private, with a different layer of reading available to them than to anyone else. She would have recognized what the poem was, would have understood in the reading of it that what she had already felt happening in her private life was now being marked publicly in the only way available to him. A goodbye said to millions of people so that it could reach the one person it was actually intended for, without requiring him to say it in a way the palace could not manage. He did not follow the poem with an explanation. Of course, he did not. The post went up, and the world received it as it receives all his work, warmly, appreciatively, without any awareness of the specific geography of feeling that had produced it. And then the chapter ended. Not immediately, not with the clean finality that the poem's imagery suggested. Endings in his life never have clean finality. They unravel over days and weeks, slowly and then completely, until the thing that was there is gone and the space where it used to be is filled with the ongoing requirements of the public life that does not pause for private losses. But the poem marked it, fixed it in time, gave it a shape that the official story would never give it, in the only language he had available. The goodbye was also, in a way that he may or may not have been fully aware of at the time of writing, a goodbye to something larger than one relationship. It was a goodbye to the version of himself that had been capable of the hope that produced the chapter now ending, to the belief that had been rebuilt carefully and against considerable evidence by the woman who had come closest to making him feel that what had been taken from him could be restored. The poem said goodbye to her, but it also said goodbye to the specific quality of hope that she had given him. And that is the goodbye that cost the most. Not the person, or not only the person, but the feeling that the person had made possible and that was leaving with them. Nobody understood what he meant. That is the title, and it is the truth. The world read the poem and felt it and forgot it and moved on to the next post and the next beautiful image and the next piece of the public story of the Crown Prince of Dubai. The real meaning of the goodbye lived and died in the space between the words and the one person who knew what the words were actually saying. And now the chapter is over and the poem remains. A goodbye that was said in public and understood only in private by the person it was always meant to reach. Subscribe to this channel and hit the bell. Every week, I bring you the real meaning behind Sheikh Hamdan's words, the goodbyes hidden inside the poetry, the truth that the world reads without understanding, and the story that has been there all along for anyone paying close enough attention.